In the world of funk music, groove is everything. It's the pulse that moves the body, the rhythm that defines the song, and the invisible force that connects musicians and audiences. And behind some of the most iconic grooves in music history was a bassist whose thumb hit the strings like thunder. His name was Louis Johnson. Nicknamed Thunder Thumbs, Johnson helped redefine electric bass playing during the 1970s and 1980s. His powerful slap technique drove hits for artists like Michael Jackson, George Benson, and Quincy Jones, while his band, the Brothers Johnson, produced some of the most celebrated funk recordings ever made. But the story of Louis Johnson is more than just famous bass lines. It's a story about innovation, musical instinct, and the power of rhythm. This is the story of the bassist who helped shape the sound of modern funk. Before we continue, subscribe now, like this video, comment, and share. Louis Johnson was born on April 13, 1955, in Los Angeles, California. Music surrounded him from an early age. He grew up in a musical household with several siblings who also played instruments. His older brother, George Johnson, was already a talented guitarist. Together, they would eventually form one of the most influential funk duos of the 1970s. But Louis didn't begin his musical journey on bass. As a young musician, he experimented with different instruments before discovering the bass guitar. And once he picked it up, everything changed. Even in his early teens, Louis had a natural sense of rhythm and groove. He wasn't just playing notes, he was playing feel. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, a revolutionary bass technique was beginning to spread through funk music. It was called slap bass. The technique had been popularized by bassist Larry Graham, who used his thumb to strike the strings and his fingers to pop them, creating a percussive sound. But Louis Johnson took the technique to a completely new level. His approach was louder, faster, and more aggressive. Instead of simply supporting the groove, his bass became the centerpiece of the rhythm. His playing was so powerful that people began calling him Thunder Thumbs. The nickname would follow him throughout his career, and it perfectly described the sound of his bass. In the early 1970s, Louis and his brother George began performing together in a band that would soon become legendary. They called themselves the Brothers Johnson. The duo combined George's guitar skills with Louis's explosive bass playing. Their sound blended funk, soul, R&B, and pop. But their big break came when one of the most powerful producers in music heard them. His name was Quincy Jones. Jones immediately recognized their talent. He signed them to his label and began producing their albums. The results were explosive. The Brothers Johnson quickly became one of the biggest funk acts of the decade. Their music combined tight grooves, catchy melodies, and unforgettable bass lines. Songs like Get the Funk Out Ma Face, Strawberry Letter 23, I'll Be Good to You, Stomp became massive hits. Stomp even reached #1 on the R&B charts in 1980. And at the center of that sound was Louis Johnson's bass. By the late 1970s, Quincy Jones had another project in mind. A young singer who had just left the Jackson 5 was about to release his first major solo album as an adult. His name was Michael Jackson. Jones needed the best musicians in the world. And for bass, there was only one choice: Louis Johnson. Johnson played bass on Jackson's groundbreaking album, Off the Wall. The record would become one of the most important pop albums ever recorded. But that was only the beginning. A few years later, Johnson returned to the studio with Jackson and Quincy Jones for another album. The album was called Thriller. It would go on to become the best-selling album in music history. And once again, Louis Johnson's bass was right at the center of the groove. He played on tracks like Billie Jean, Get on the Floor, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. These bass lines became part of the DNA of pop music. While the brothers Johnson were achieving massive success, Louis Johnson was also becoming one of the most sought-after session bassists in the music industry. His playing appeared on recordings by some of the biggest artists in the world. Among them, Stevie Wonder, Aretha Franklin, Paul McCartney, Donna Summer, Phil Collins, The Supremes, and many more. Producers loved working with Johnson. Why? Because he understood something many musicians forget. The bass isn't just about technique, it's about groove. Part of Louis Johnson's sound came from his instrument. He became closely associated with the Music Man Stingray bass. The instrument was designed by legendary guitar builder Leo Fender. Johnson helped popularize the bass in the late 1970s. The Stingray's powerful pickup and punchy tone were perfect for slap bass. Combined with Johnson's aggressive technique, it created a sound that cut through any mix. The result was unmistakable. If you heard that thunderous slap tone on a record from the late 70s, there was a good chance Louis Johnson was playing. Louis Johnson's slap technique was so fast that many musicians wondered how he controlled it. His answer was surprising. He sometimes wore weightlifting gloves while playing, not to play faster, but to slow himself down. As he once explained, "I wear gloves to slow me down. When I take them off, it makes me play too fast." The gloves created friction on the strings, forcing him to control his technique. It was a simple trick, but it helped him maintain precision at incredible speed. Louis Johnson's impact on bass playing cannot be overstated. He became one of the key figures in the evolution of funk bass. Alongside pioneers like Larry Graham, Johnson helped define the modern slap style. His playing influenced generations of bassists, including Marcus Miller, Victor Wooten, Flea, Mark King. These musicians would go on to expand the slap technique even further, but the foundation had already been laid. By Thunder Thumbs. In the 1980s, the brothers Johnson eventually split up as both brothers pursued other projects. Louis continued working as a session musician and collaborator. He remained active in the music industry for decades. Even as musical trends changed, his reputation as a legendary bassist never faded. Bass players around the world continued studying his recordings, learning his grooves, and trying to replicate his explosive slap tone. Louis Johnson passed away on May 21, 2015, at the age of 60. The news shocked musicians across the world. Tributes poured in from fans, producers, and fellow bassists. Because Johnson's influence extended far beyond his own recordings, he had helped shape the rhythm of an entire generation of music. His bass lines continue to appear on classic recordings played millions of times every day. From funk to pop to hip-hop samples, the sound of Thunder Thumbs lives on. Some musicians play instruments, others transform them. Louis Johnson did both. He took the bass guitar, once considered a background instrument, and pushed it into the spotlight. With thunderous grooves, innovative technique, and unstoppable energy, he helped define the sound of funk and pop music. And decades later, those bass lines still make the world move. Because when Louis Johnson hit the strings, the groove wasn't just heard, it was felt. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. See you in the next video.